presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
The following program is for mature and logical audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Play YMCA. Go ahead. Let's go. Nice and loud. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Thinking Logically. It's only been about 48 hours, but things have escalated rather quickly since last episode. The Democrats made complete fools of themselves during Trump's joint address to Congress on Tuesday. Congressman Al Green got tossed out like a rowdy parent at a high school basketball game, football game, pick your sport, I don't know. A drunken bar patron that had to be removed from the premises. We're going to cover Tuesday night in detail and some other topics on the board. Some other topics are going to include Trump giving Hamas an ultimatum, measles, why the price of eggs just won't go down, and the Supreme Court's ruling on USAID funding. So all that, much, much more. You know the number, 724-843-1888 or 724-774-1888 if you want to call in and talk about any of these topics or anything at all on your mind. Ryan, did you watch Tuesday?
So it was such a good, I tell you what, I enjoyed it so much. They replayed it at 1 o'clock and I watched it again in its entirety. 4 hours of watching that speech that night, yes.
Yeah, I don't even know how to break it down. We're going to start play. It's about a 20-second audio of the remainder of Trump's introduction, and then we're going to take it from there with the breakdown.
So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
I feel like there should be a narrator voice, but the Democrats did not celebrate the nation with President Trump and other Americans. Listen, audience, this could have been a great moment of unity for our country. Oh, man. Right? Could it not have been?
Absolutely.
Instead, remember the peaceful transfer of power we were promised? That lasted literally a couple days. That's it. I don't even know how to begin to describe what I saw Tuesday. Some people are saying that the way the Democrats behaved was disgraceful. I've heard disrespectful. I've heard embarrassing. This was like watching a sports team tanking on purpose. Except they don't get a first round or first overall draft pick or anything for sucking this bad. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The 2026 midterm season is in like 13 months at most. And they have to gain voters since last election. And Democrats aren't known for their turnout during midterms. So why did the Democrats act the way they acted on Tuesday? When I say they had nothing at all to gain for acting like that, I really mean they had nothing to gain. Had they just sat back, clapped a few times, and kept their mouth shut, no one will be talking about Trump's joint address anymore. It'd be on to the next thing. And Dems could put the focus back on whether or not a tariff war is the right way to go for this country. But no, that's not what they did. Instead, as I guess you could call it a unified group, the Democrats chose to not stand up for a child that had brain cancer. Then they refused to clap for a girl who nearly lost her head from a spike by a man who was allowed to play girls volleyball. This is all why they wore pink, to symbolize they stand with women's rights. What? Keep in mind, audience, this is also like 24 hours after they all voted no to keeping men out of women's sports. Does this sound like good messaging to you? Does this sound like something that will get more people to show up to the polls for them in 2026? No. So it begs the question, why are they doing this? Who is giving them this advice? Who's coming up with these ideas? I've never in my life, and I've been a Pirate fan for 40 years almost, I've never seen so many unforced errors in my life as I did Tuesday night, at least politically. Al Green, during a joint address to Congress, stood up and raised his right hand outward like this, Ryan. Show the picture, actually.
You know what? He didn't even get out of that top half of the first inning. That was so early.
Like a pitcher they chased him in the first inning, but he was just throwing nothing but junk balls.
You think a sight like that should have been the highlight for something like this. It wasn't. It was forgotten because they were so bad.
He stood up and he raised his right hand outward and started shouting. I don't know, Ryan. It sounded like German a little bit to me. I couldn't hear. When you look at the picture from behind, it looks very, very Nazi-ish. Ryan, show the picture whenever you get a chance. The audience. Sure. There's no rush for the audience, but like he just stood there with the cane. And I'll remind our audience that like literally we're only about 140 some years removed from a congressman beating another congressman nearly to death over slavery with a cane. So shaking a cane at someone in the halls of Congress isn't the smartest thing to do. People remember. It may have been 140 years ago, but that doesn't matter to the Democrats. I mean, and then there's also, did you show him as the QAnon shaman? The way he's screaming and everything, all you got to do is put on the QAnon shaman horns, and he looks exactly like a black version of the QAnon shaman. But for real, what was he thinking? Standing up and yelling at the President of the United States for an extended period of time during a joint address. He looked like an idiot. And it was in front of the entire country. The only way he could have looked at any dumber was if he stepped on a few rakes while being escorted out. And actually, that's kind of what happened. The entire Democratic Party spent over an hour just stepping on rake after rake after rake. And we got to watch. And it's on video, so we can watch it again. We can bring it to Easter dinner and play it for our families. We can play it every Christmas as a memory. As soon as that little boy with brain cancer got a secret security badge, they should have unleashed him on Congressman Al Green. Throw the cuffs on him and tell him, hey, Al Green, let's stay together until I drop your ass off of jail. You an Al Green fan with the music titles? Clearly not. All right, rough crowd here. No one remembers Al Green from the 70s. Actually, play the audio of DJ Daniels on his first day as a Secret Service agent.
Such an honor to have met you. He has one more thing to say. I won't interrupt you.
If you're a Democrat and you're being mean to President Trump, I'm on your bumper.
Say whatever you want. If he would have been there in Butler, he would have done a lot more than that.
Yes.
He'd have been on someone's bumper. He'd at least been looking for the guy that did it.
Did you see, I think it was at the point when they told him they were going to make him a certified CIA member, the look on his face, it was just that genuine child's look of...
I couldn't hear it through all the booze. I couldn't, you know what I mean?
How ridiculous.
Actually, let's go over a few of these in detail because, like you said, they are just so ridiculous that when you sit back and actually break it down how they acted, it doesn't make any sense. First off, the handheld signs were a dumb idea. Who thought that? Yeah, let's make little signs to hold, but make sure we don't clap for a child with brain cancer. I don't understand. The handheld signs make you look like little weak, feeble people. All we can do, we've been relegated as Democrats to listening to literally Hitler, a dictator Hitler, who they called Hitler, and all we can do is hold feeble paper signs that say false. Or
It was bad.
But not clapping for a kid with brain cancer. Even Darth Sidious from Star Wars would have clapped for a kid with cancer. Good.
And as you said, Joe, with just the unforced errors, let's just say that move was politically driven, and they still didn't clap. Even if that's the case, you still, as a decent person trying to sell your party as a party of good, you clap. I mean, that's a little kid. He had cancer.
Have you ever been to a Steeler game? Do we boo the people in wheelchairs, or the people that come out with or lost people to breast cancer? Do we boo them because we're Steeler fans?
It's almost like they went out there and they said, let's see how bad we could mess up tonight.
Philadelphia might do stuff like that, but not Steeler fans.
You're right.
Actually, let's get into not just the politicians. It's the people in the media that had a lot of unforced errors as well. Who was it? Nicole Wallace? Did you see what Nicole Wallace said about DJ? You did not.
I didn't.
So you're going to hear this from the first time. I guess you can say she politicized it, to say the least. Play the audio.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
What we make combined in a year, she makes in about a half hour at work. And she gets paid for takes like that. The boy had over a dozen brain surgeries, and you're saying you hope he doesn't commit suicide when he's older? I hope this little boy lives to be 100 years old, but it's possible that Donald Trump could drive him to suicide in the future. What the hell kind of messaging is that? I don't even know what to say. And this woman's on TV, and she gets paid more than we make in a year per episode combined.
It's unbelievable. It truly is unbelievable.
And we just covered Al Green, not 70s Al Green.
Right.
No, that's Al Green and DJ Daniels, the kid with cancer that they didn't clap for. We're gonna have to trim some of these out, or else it's gonna be like last episode.
It's gonna be like a 4-hour show.
The whole episode is gonna be on one topic. What else?
Did Al Green kind of look like a studio wrestler out there at one point?
Yeah.
When he was waving his arms around, and he looked like a wrestler.
I was just waiting for him to go. But no one was cheering for him. They were just going, shut up, sit down. All these people are 95 years old anyway. They don't want to be there any later than they have to be. What else happened? Not a single Democrat clapped for Peyton McNabb. Who's Peyton McNabb? She was the woman. Yeah. The McNabb in Philadelphia and Peyton. It just got me. There's no way that could be a woman in 2025, but here it can be. It's confusing. You have to excuse me. But she is a woman, and she suffered brain damage after volleyball was spiked on her by a trans person, and it ended her high school volleyball career. I bet all these idiots in our Congress on the left would cheer as if they were in a soccer stadium if someone mentioned fighting for Ukraine, but not this. Let's talk about this for a second. A man playing volleyball against girls smashed her head. Have you ever been to a cookout ride in the summer that had a volleyball net?
Of course.
Did you ever play with girls?
Yes, absolutely.
You might as well compete in a long jump against midgets. What kind? How weak of a person do you have to be to enter a high school volleyball game and play against girls? I mean. And Democrats voted to keep allowing this to happen, to keep allowing men to play in women's sports. But at the same time yesterday, wore pink in a symbolic gesture of unity with women. I got to just...
It's unbelievable.
Again, and I'm sorry, I have to hammer it home. Democrats wore pink in a symbolic show of unity with women, and then refused to stand when President Trump acknowledged a girl who suffered brain damage from a volleyball spike to the head by a biological man. And worse, like we said, 24 hours before this, every Democrat voted to allow men to compete in girls' sports. Where were the signs that say transgender rights? There was nothing on their little feeble paper signs that said trans women are women, transgender rights. Where were those at? Because right then they could have held it up at that moment, but they didn't. Were they afraid? What's their actual position?
They have no position, Joe.
What exactly are they even protesting besides the fact that Donald Trump is president?
I agree. I mean,
on the sign, it should have been trans women or women when talking about that. It's very simple. I mean, you can't have one that says brain cancer. It's good.
Right.
Nothing you could do there. But like for this one, this is very easy. When I say the night couldn't have been any worse for the entire Democrat Party, as a whole, I really mean it. They didn't clap for tax cuts, which... whatever, I guess that's the least of my worries with them. But they also refuse to clap for no tax on tips. How could you not clap for no tax on tips? Remember when Kamala tried to steal Trump's no tax on tips idea? Now the Dems hate it. They hate no tax on tips, which is weird because their voter base is all baristas at Starbucks. We got Dawn. Dawn.
Hey.
I'd love to get your insight on what you saw on Tuesday.
I couldn't wait for this phone call.
I didn't see anything and I didn't hear anything. I fell asleep and then I lied to people and said I was listening to music. I'm getting older, you know, like Al Green and Nancy Pelosi and hey, but as far as the transgender thing, and I don't have any acrimony towards anybody. I'm just bored and calling guys on the radio show. In high school, I think I could, with 8-ounce gloves, with a referee, I think there are 5 or 6 boys I could have taken in a fight. I could have easily beat up half the girls in that school.
How old were you, Don? Were you a late bloomer?
Well, apparently, yeah, I still am, actually. I mean, a friend of mine told me that one day. He said, flash back to a year about when you were like 18, 19, pick a year, because he didn't know exactly what year I was born. He said, any issue that comes up, put yourself back who you were then, who your parents were, they're still alive and everything, and think how everybody would just be staring dead-eyed at the wall at the stupid stuff like MSNBC. If you would have shown me that when I was 17 and forced me to watch it, I would have thought that we had been airlifted to a planet where everyone was insane. What would you have thought?
We are on a planet where everyone is insane. But
the whole planet.
But I've been alive for the last 40 years almost, so but I can see it's.
No, it's right. It has to be done with an older person than you. Absolutely. Yes.
Imagine
so
just being in a coma.
Gradual thing or descent into insanity, correct?
Well, imagine just being in a coma for the last 9 years and you wake up last night or wake up Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and you see Donald Trump and then what you saw. You'd be like, wait a minute, what did I miss?
I'll tell you what you missed. You missed if it was a plandemic or pandemic really doesn't matter because it happened. But it was totally mismanaged, and authoritarians within the United States of America looked to use it as an example of how much power they could seize.
Yeah. And it woke people up. I think they overplayed their hand.
Let's hope so, correct?
Correct. I mean, I'm more awake. And I look at back where I was in 2018, 19. This is after, Trump was elected for the first time. I feel like I am so much more awake to the schemes and everything else. Just in the last, it's like every year I'm exponentially getting smarter to the crimes that have been going on in this country. We, the taxpayer, have been paying for pretty much.
Well, what we really need is, I saw some police work in Spain with a drunken guy that was belligerent with the police. And we were there to refuel planes over Somalia. And 2 drunken Spaniards got on laughing, couldn't speak any English, which meant they were from the countryside. No city dweller in Seville would have done that. And they started saying, you Americano, I go to war and fight with you, and pounding their chest, big smiles on their faces. And the one big guy said, the police are coming, but they weren't understanding. So the one Hispanic went back and talked to him, and they called him a peasant in Spanish. And he said, I don't care what happens to him. The cops came on the bus, 2 cops, and they ordered him off, and the one got off immediately, and you could tell he knew his friend wasn't going to do it. And they kept saying, get off the bus in Spanish, and I thought, wow, we're going to get to see some Spanish police work, not those terrible American police that we hear about. They lifted him up with one of those tricky little submission moves. His arm was behind his back, and he started yelling like, ay, 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 or something like that. They took him and threw him out on the sidewalk. The cop walked out behind him, hands loosely at his side, and he decided he still wanted to run his drunken mouth. He dropped that boy out cold with one punch. Wouldn't it have been terrible if a cop would have punched Al Green or Secret Service would have punched him?
Listen, they couldn't even escort him out. You see, they had to ask Nancy Pelosi for permission. Did you see them? They went...
Okay, if we were an authoritarian state, they don't ask permission for nothing, do they?
No, the guy up there is supposed to be the dictator. He's supposed to be Hitler, the guy speaking, and they're able to interrupt him and then ask a woman if they're allowed to throw out Al Green.
A 90-year-old woman.
With a new hip, though.
Well, yeah, good to go, brand new. But when they say, like, I've heard in Germany, if you run your mouth, you are immediately outside of the car. I don't know how you get outside the car. Imagine a young, fit man yanks you out of the car. We have to win the midterms, correct?
We want them. I think we want them on Tuesday. They have a lot of ground to making up for. We scored about 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, they look like a bunch of idiots now, don't they?
Yeah, I don't think they're prepared for the midterms. They're not even thinking. That's what they need to do. They need to get like a couple million voters across. It's not like a general election. It's got to be in each individual state too.
Well, let's hope that we've convinced the American people, because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a wealthy man. And if they ask me, would you be willing on election night to unload boxes of Democratic ballots already pre-stamped? You'd have to pay me some real money. I would do it. So let's hope that we have the people ready, right?
That's right. I think there's not going to be a problem. This is just, I think.
You know, those Republican lawyers are a big pain in the butt. It's tough to cheat on an election with all those darn attorneys there, isn't it?
It is. And they actually have them now. Before, it was all Democrat attorneys. Now they have an even match, and they don't like it, I don't think.
There you go. Take care.
You too, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
All right. Let's cover a few more points, and we'll take a commercial break. So the Democrats didn't stand for the announcement of terrorists being captured. Were they mad about a terrorist being captured? It took Trump 6 weeks to get the Abbey Gate bomber. Remember the Afghanistan 13 service members killed? What was the Biden administration doing for 3.5 years? The closest they got was drone striking and killing an entire family of an Afghani interpreter. The Democrats could not have looked any dumber if they plugged their ears with their fingers and just screamed, no, 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 for an hour and a half. Like, what were they protesting besides the fact that Donald Trump is president? None of what they did Tuesday makes any sense. Not standing for women injured by a man, a kid with cancer, the capture of a terrorist. Doing stuff like that, it's not a protest. It's just dumb. Trump, we are draining the swamp. It's very simple. The days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over. That was during his joint address to the U.S. Congress. Maybe that's why they didn't clap, because they're part of the swamp. All right, CNN had a fact check going on their website. In the fact check, they said Trump falsely talked about $8 million on transgender mice. Then they edited the fact check to admit, actually, their fact check was false. And you can look this up on their website. Libs of TikTok put that out. Who else? CNN. Oh, Tim Walz. Ryan, remember Tim Walz?
Yeah.
He went on CNN to explain how Trump calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas is racist. This is what he said. The idea of a president standing at a rostrum and throwing a slur at a U.S. senator in the middle because you disagree on policy is absolutely ridiculous. Look, audience, please, I hope you'll agree with me. Calling a white woman who claimed to be a Native American to advance her academic and political career, that's not a racial slur. In fact, it can't be a racial slur. Number one, she's not Indian. Number two, Pocahontas was a character, not a slur word. She's a character, right? Sacagawea is the actual person.
Correct.
Pocahontas is just a character in a Disney movie.
Yeah.
It's not a racial slur. Like, what is wrong with these people? You look around at what you saw Tuesday night. We were talking about this, not just the action, but just how they look. Some of it looks like they're Gotham City villains.
They did.
The one with the pink hair, she looks like, I don't know what her name is. She looks like General Michael Flynn in drag.
Yeah, or what of that guy from MASH. I wasn't a MASH guy. I mean, the guy, I'm picturing the guy.
Yes.
And it was just wild because they're over there. They're just stewing away everything that was said that was good and positive. It looked like they were just ready to jump out of their skin, Joe.
Maybe they did after. That's what they do after those people. I don't know.
Unbelievable, though.
One thing I did notice I didn't like from Republicans, J.D. Vance. What was up with his pants? He looked like he went to like high school in he did go to high school in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah.
His belt buckle was just so low.
Yeah, I thought there was something strange with his pants.
Play the hot mic between him and Mike Johnson before we go out to a commercial break, if you get a chance. I think that's the only audio we have left. J.D. Vance says, it's going to be a great speech, but I don't know how you guys do it for an hour and a half. And Mike Johnson said, you should have been here when it was Joe Biden, which I think J.D. Vance was. He was like, it was more of a campaign speech. J.D. Vance is nice. And Ryan, we talked about all the J.D. Vance memes. You got an audience, look them up, go on Twitter, go on X, and just type in Vance meme. Ryan Nationalist on X put this out. In 1,000 years' time, historians will be unable to say for certainty what J.D. Vance actually looked like. He's got it. The 2028 presidential polls are out. We're talking about midterms. I'm reading the presidential polls right now for 2028. J.D. Vance, 100%. And that's it. It's over. Stay tuned. We're taking a break. You're listening to Thinking Logically here at 99.3 FM WBVP. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Galla with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Galla of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond. Hey everyone, it's Joe from Thinking Logically here to tell you about one of my favorite places to eat, Bowser's Restaurant in Monaca. I'm a big fan of their 2-meat plate. Sometimes I get it with the pulled pork, and sometimes I get it with ribs, but I always get it with their amazing brisket. Don't forget to try all their smokehouse sides as well. Takeout and catering available too. Again, that's Bowser's Restaurant at 1493 Old Broadhead Road in Monaca.
Tri-State Sporting Arms on Main Street in New Brighton is now open. Stop in and explore their extensive selection of high-quality firearms, pistols, and accessories. Tri-State Sporting Arms also pays top dollar for used firearms. Their experienced and highly trained staff is here to assist you in selecting the right firearm for you. Stop on down to Beaver County's newest firearms store, Tri-State Sporting Arms, at 807 3rd Avenue, New Brighton, or check them out on Facebook.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically here at 99.3 FM WBVP. First segment, we were talking about Congressman Al Green and how he was so tired of being alone after getting kicked out of Trump's joint address on Tuesday, as well as the debacle that happened to the Democrats. I don't know, so many unforced errors. Now we're going to talk about the Supreme Court's ruling on the Trump administration's application to vacate the district court's ruling on USAID funding. Well, the application by Trump was denied by the Supreme Court. Now, I guess this is a procedural ruling, not a merits ruling. So that means that this doesn't become law after it's applied. 5 justices, including Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, they opted to deny the application. This is what Justice Alito said in his dissent, though. Does a single district court judge who likely lacks jurisdiction have the unchecked power to compel the government of the United States to pay out and probably lose forever $2 billion taxpayer dollars? And he's right. This is exactly what we've been saying. How does an unchecked judge or how does an unelected judge have this kind of power? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever run for president? Just run for judge. Or I guess judges are elected most of the time. But anyway, Judge Alito also says the answer to that question should be an emphatic no, but a majority of the court apparently thinks otherwise. I will say this about the decision. It is a win for the Democrats. It's the first win for the Democrats in a long, long, long time. And at the same time, this is actually a great loss for Donald Trump, if you think about it. Seriously, think about it. The Dems are fighting to steal money away from the American people. How is this going to play in 13 months during midterm season? Trump is going to remind people every day that the Dems fought giving money to foreign lands all the way to the Supreme Court. You know what? End this right now. Let them have the $2 billion. We should make the people that are getting this $2 billion show us exactly where the money is going and how it's being spent now. They should have to prove that this money is worthy of the causes it's going to in a public forum, because it is our tax dollars and it's been hidden for so long. Let's bring it out in the open. I'm sick of millions of dollars going to Sesame Street, where like literally a couple dozen people view it, and it's in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia. I don't know what the country it was on. It was a YouTube. It had like literally a few dozen views. They spent a couple $1 million on this. Where'd the money go? So again, prove this money is worthy of where it's going, or Trump could just eliminate USAID as an agency altogether. JFK founded it, I think, via executive order. I guess that means Trump can axe it with an executive order, or at least cut its funding completely via executive order. Or he can wait to the next budget. In the next budget bill, make sure, hey, I'm only passing this if USAID is completely defunded. I'll veto it. Test me. And that's how you eliminate that problem. This decision made me kind of sick, but like I said, it's a good loss for Trump because they expose themselves again. They don't care about you, the taxpayer. They don't care about your money. They need your money, and it's got to go to other foreign lands. It cannot stay here where it can help us. All right, next I want to talk about Ukraine, Russia, these rare earth minerals. But first, I want to clarify a position I had from last episode. I said that the meeting between President Trump and Zelensky last Friday, that it may have been a setup, but by our media and the Democrats, not by Trump and J.D. Vance. Remember, politicians on both sides of the aisle have a lot of skeletons in their closet when it comes to Ukraine. There is vested interest for them to see this war continue. But back to last Friday. Congressman Chris Murphy from Connecticut, he met with Zelensky before Trump on Friday. This is documented. And remember, Zelensky was even late on arrival to Trump. That's also documented. Chris Murphy even tweeted out a picture of him and Zelensky in his office. So again, what were they talking about? It's interesting because Zelensky, the only two people that knew the details of that mineral deal were Trump and Zelensky. Let's think here. Was Congressman Chris Murphy, an elected official, was he the messenger boy for Susan Rice, Barack Obama, all the people we talked about last episode? Remember, it's like the mafia movies. Picture the beginning of Goodfellas when they're rocking in the rain with the umbrella. There's a few degrees of separation, and most of the instructions, especially in today's society, are given verbally. Remember when Susan Rice was on MSNBC? We played the audio with Nicole Wallace last week. She seemed to know all the terms of the mineral deal somehow. I wonder if Zelensky told Chris Murphy, who told Susan Rice. I wonder if Susan Rice told Chris Murphy to tell Zelensky to do something. And I wonder who told Susan Rice, because she's not coming up with all these ideas on her own. But let's cover another aspect of this mineral deal. Audience. Ukraine is a habitual liar. A habitual line stepper, as Charlie Murphy would say, and a habitual liar. There might not be any rare earth minerals in Ukraine. I'm not going to say any, at least not as much as we are led to believe. remember, most of these rare earth minerals were in the regions by the Donbass and stuff like that. So these rare earth minerals, a lot of them might be in areas that are under Russian control. And if you remember back just like a week or two ago, Vladimir Putin hinted that he was offering Trump and the United States a deal on rare earth minerals. And he said that Russia has way more than Ukraine, which I'm sure they probably do. So imagine this, audience. President Trump making a mineral deal with Vladimir Putin if he agrees to pull out of Ukraine. And Vladimir Putin saying, okay, I'll do that. But the whole reason this war went on is because NATO was encroaching on my border. So you, the United States, the backbone of NATO, you got to pull out of NATO. So imagine Putin pulls out of Ukraine, the U.S. pulls out of NATO, every single problem is solved, and then the EU goes broke. That's all of our solution right there. Is this the card? Is this the card that could be played? The reality of the situation is, Ukraine may not have the rare earth minerals they claim. And think about it, audience. The global market has lots of alternatives when it comes to these rare earth minerals. Russia, one, they have a lot of reserves. They can make a deal with Trump, like we said. But another resource-rich, I don't want to call them a nation, I'll call them a land. And they seem more than willing to work with Trump. Do you know who I'm talking about, Ryan? I'm talking about Al Greenland. Marjorie Taylor Greenland. Do you see why Ukraine has no cards? Do you see why he was right when he says you don't have the cards? You don't have the cards. I'm telling you, that might be the solution. Make a mineral deal with Putin that hinges on him pulling out of Ukraine and that U.S. leaves NATO. There's no reason for NATO anymore. And the U.S. saves a ton of money and gets rare earth minerals. Hire me, Trump. Hire me, Mr. President. Meanwhile, in Poland, you're gonna laugh just at the name. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. What? It's his name. It really is his name. He's quoted as saying, "Europe must enter in an arms race with Russia and win it." Is he like an evil twin of Donald Tusk?
Donald Tusk.
Evil Donald Tusk. He's from Poland though, and he wants to enter arms race with Russia. Again, Prime Minister of Poland. Zelensky and Ukraine fired missiles into your country last year or 2 years ago and then try to blame it on Russia, thus sparking a world war. And now you want to give them more weapons. You should have been on the floor. You should have been on with the Democrats. They should have invited you as their... Geez, you got about as much intelligence as them. All right, let's continue with the world news here. Ryan, when I say the word shalom, do you know what that means? You hear it probably all the time.
Yeah, you hear it, it's...
I didn't know it meant hello and goodbye.
Really?
Yes. So this is from President Trump. He put out this on Truth Social, I believe. It's a Shalom, Hamas. That means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all the dead bodies to the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. Donald Trump, President of the United States. He's just awesome.
Yeah.
Can you picture, what would Joe Biden say? Don't.
Just don't.
October 7th of, what was it? Was it 2023? I think it was 2023.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to solve this now. He's only been in office for 6 weeks. Before we move to a break, what else do we have for... Newly released emails reveal the Obama administration systematically derailed an FBI probe into Iranian terrorist. Then Secretary of State John Kerry personally blocked the arrest to secure a nuclear deal, creating a shadow amnesty program that shielded Iranian criminals. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. We're going to have to cover this next episode. This seems like a real scandal here because it was to get that nuclear deal set with Iran, which got nothing, got this country basically nothing. We got to take a break. When we come back, though, we're going to cover childhood illnesses and illnesses in general, starting with the measles. Stay tuned. You're listening to Thinking Logic here on 99.3 FM WBVP. It's Joe Corsi here from Thinking Logically to tell you about Beaver County's #1 realtor, Mark Gullah with RE/MAX Select Realty. With over 10 years experience, Mark knows all the ins and outs of the real estate business, so whether you're looking to rent, buy, sell, or swap your house, you can rely on Mark to take the hassle out. Mark Gullah of RE/MAX Select Realty, going above and beyond. It's Joe again from Thinking Logically, here to tell you about one of my favorite clothing items, the MyPillow hoodie. Two things I love the most about this hoodie are how it fits and how it feels. This hoodie is extremely roomy, and its terry cloth material makes it lighter than any other hoodie I own. Use promo code LOGIC to maximize your savings. The MyPillow hoodie. Get yours today.
Can the card you carry really change your life? It can when it's a low-rate Freedom United Federal Credit Union fixed-rate Visa card. This is Pat Travail, and I'm the lady in the loan department with the big scissors. No, silly. I'm not doing haircuts, but I am going to use those shears to cut up those nasty high-rate store charge cards you're carrying around. Why, you ask? Because you won't be needing those cards anymore after you take advantage of Freedom United's low 6.99% rate balance transfer special. Good for a limited time on new money transfers to a Freedom United Visa card with approved credit. Potential money saved on lower monthly payments really can be life-changing and potentially put more freedom in your future. Visit Freedom United Federal Credit Union, member NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logic here on 99.3 FM WBVP. It's a cold day today. Yesterday was kind of warm. The weather's going to start breaking. It's the perfect time for an old sponsor to make his return. That's right. So fresh, so clean, pressure washing. Remember, whether you need your house washed, your driveway cleaned, your patio done, fences, gutters, you name it, call Dave from So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing at 724-252-4489. That's 724-252-4489. They are fully insured and they offer free estimates. So what are you waiting for? Don't be the outcast in your neighborhood with a dirty Decker house. Call So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing today. I hate when like this weather, the snow's been on your house, the outside of your house is so dirty.
Yeah.
But I try to hold off until like April to get it done, like the end of spring.
Yeah, it's still early because who knows what we're going to see between now and then.
Yeah.
You know.
But now's the time. Call him. Like I said, get a free estimate today. That's Dave at So Fresh, So Clean Pressure Washing, 724-252-4489. All right, speaking of pressure washing, I don't know how we're going to transition to that. Maybe if it was something else, but we're going to talk about measles. Ryan, have you ever had measles?
I have not.
I have not either. I think I got the measles vaccine as a child. Pretty sure I did, in fact. I'm sure a lot of the boomers have gotten measles.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So there's a lot of recent news about measles. In my opinion, I think it's just like with COVID, propaganda. Measles. Ryan, have you heard the rumor that measles has actually been eradicated in the United States?
You know what? I got to be honest, Joe. I didn't know what was going on with measles. I know that I've never known anybody in my personal life that had measles. I've never had measles. I wasn't sure, but I'm hearing that word come up more, and it's kind of...
Let's go to the last 10 years for the numbers. So 2015, there were 188 cases. 2016, 86. 2017, 120. 2018, 375. 2019, we saw over 1,200. Then 2020, we had 13. It's because no one's allowed to go anywhere. 2021, we had 49. 2022, we had 121. Then we ticked down in 2023 with 58. And then last year, before Donald Trump and RFK had anything to do with anything in government, we had nearly 300 cases at 285 of measles.
Wow.
Now, in the last 15 years, measles has killed a grand total of 3 people in the United States. 15 years. Now, let's get to the most recent one. Now, one of those deaths is controversial because it is rumored, and these are just rumors, that the child was already sick with, I believe, a terminal illness. The influenza virus, which completely disappeared for 2 years in 2020, if you remember, it kills approximately 40,000 people in the United States every year. Measles has killed 3. Motor vehicle accidents, around the same as the flu, 40,000 a year. Measles, 3. This does not need to be blown out of proportion. Do not let the media fear porn affect you like it did during COVID. We're going to rewind. What I love about the internet is anyone can find something that can go viral, and we all can become more intelligent because of it. Take, for instance, do you watch Law & Order SVU, Special Victims Unit?
I've seen.
My wife actually likes the show. They did an episode on measles.
Really?
Yes. And when you watch the episode of SVU of measles, it's scary.
Yeah.
But there's just one problem. Someone on the internet found a episode of The Brady Bunch from the 1970s where the main topic is, I don't know the 3 boys that are in the names. One of them gets measles. And it's not a big deal at all. Ryan, play the audio from The Brady Bunch in the 1970s about measles.
What are you doing home from school? They sent me home. Measles.
It's either measles or a strange case of red freckles. You have got a temperature.
They told me 101.1. What's the record?
Never mind.
Oh, are you sure it's the measles?
Well, he certainly got all the symptoms. A slight temperature, a lot of dots, and a great big smile.
A great big smile.
No school for a few days.
Say hello to my dotted son for me. Tell him I'll bring him some comic books and I'll see you later, dear.
Okay, honey, bye.
Boy, this is the life, isn't it? Yeah. If you have to get sick, you sure can't beat the measles. That's right. No medicine.
Inside or out. Like shots at me.
Don't even mention shots.
Okay. I'm going to read one more article from a newspaper in the 1960s. This is from Died Suddenly on X. In the paper, it reads the quote, "Doctors give advice to mothers whose children have measles. Everybody gets the measles. They become immune. Ease your child's boredom with games." And this is back in the 60s when there actually were outbreaks. Now, Ryan.
I got to be honest with you. I'm less worried now after hearing Bobby Brady enjoying his measles.
Well, did you ever have like chickenpox? I had chickenpox.
I did, yes.
But when I got chickenpox, they brought some of my cousins over, and I gave my cousins chickenpox. That was like the thing. Now, my wife told me that she's on these Facebook groups, and some of the parents suggested doing that, and people treated them like they were crazy with the measles.
Jeez.
Again, now let's go back to Law & Order SVU, which I think came out like a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. Play the highlights from the episode of Law, or the trailer, I guess, from the episode of Law & Order about measles, and see if you can notice the difference.
Dad says I should go to school.
7 students confirmed with measles, 4 others possible.
How? They had to have been vaccinated.
These moms never vaccinated their kids and lied about it. Vaccines are harmful. You are endangering the health of every child in this city. Liv, no, it's turning Liv. Call 911.
Are you scared now?
I am now. I was doing
Dad says I should go. Dad says I should go to school. See how they blame it on the male parent too?
Yeah.
Just the predictive programming, all the things underneath. Vaccines, the childhood vaccines are dangerous. Do you think the measles is coming from the few small amount of people that are not vaccinating their kids the last few months, since 60 days since Trump and RFK have been in? Or do you think it's the mass amount of illegal aliens coming in? And let me tell you why I'm right here, Ryan.
Okay.
So measles, number one, it isn't scary. It's not scary. And shame on every person in the media participating in another false pandemic scare. The death rate from measles had already reduced an insane amount even before the vaccines. Same thing with many other diseases. The reason for the improvement in health is better hygiene, better sanitation, better drinking water. That's why no one gets cholera anymore. The media, though, they want you to believe that there's some resurgence in measles due to people not vaccinating their kids. If it's anything, like I said, it's the border. Remember the part I just said about improved hygiene, sanitation, and drinking water? That goes down. Infectious diseases go up. I mean, do the migrants being tortured on the way up from the border in the Darien Gap, do they have any of that sanitation, hygiene, drinking water? No. How dumb do you have to be? You can't see... You can't see it being played on you again? You can't see they're doing it again, like with COVID? Next, you'll be wearing masks for measles. Dear Lord. And I don't want to get measles. I don't want to see any kids get measles, but kids get sick and then they get healthy. You know, the two most vaccinated groups of people are children and infants and the elderly. And those just so happen to be the people that get sick most often. There's got to be some kind of correlation there. Maybe not, though. I don't know. All right. Are we good with measles? Are you not? Did I get you to not be afraid of measles, Ryan?
It was definitely a contrast. Very interesting to see the way that broke down between those two different shows.
All right, let's cover the chicken and eggs real quick. So, reminder: we have an egg shortage, and eggs are more expensive. Yes, milk's getting a little bit lower, but why are eggs getting more expensive? It's because the Biden administration spitefully culled over 100 million chickens in the last weeks of his presidency. That's why there's a shortage now. It doesn't happen overnight. Also, I believe a lot of chicken farms were taken out. Caught fire. Remember that? We got a caller? What else? Trump on daylight savings time. It's a 50-50 issue, and if something is a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about. I assume people would like to have more light later, but some people want to have more light earlier because they don't want to take their kids to school in the dark. A lot of people like it one way. A lot of people like it the other way. We have a caller? James. Okay, send James over. I think I remember James. James, you're on.
Hi, I was that silly guy that tried to rap to you last time.
No, you're not a silly guy.
Okay, this is what I need you to do. I'll give you a homework assignment because you guys like to research.
Go ahead. What do you got for me?
There was an article written in People magazine several years ago, written by Ringo Starr. And he said that he felt fortunate and lucky to become a Beatle. He said it was because he did not think for 1 second that he was going to live to the age of 20 years old, because he had come down with every threatening childhood deadly disease that there was. And I don't get sick, and neither does Ringo Starr. This is why he's 85 or 86, and he's got a microphone in his hand now, and he sits out there with smiles and shoots people peace signs instead of playing the drums most of the time. And I don't get sick because the same reason Ringo doesn't get sick. When you have a life-threatening disease at a very young age, it rocks your immune system. It puts a paw print in your immune system, and you have to work really hard. I mean, they would have had to give me a COVID enema to make me get sick.
Now,
and this is something that the allopathic doctors do not bring to no one's attention. And the allopathic doctors are normal doctors who are the ones who are called ears, throat, and nose doctors. They're the ones that are the people worship their white coats and their stethoscopes and believe everything that they say. And they're the ones that misled us a whole bunch.
So you knew from the jump when they said it doesn't matter if you had COVID or not, you still have to get vaccinated. It'll give you double protection.
No.
That's how I knew from the jump.
I wanted to get a vaccination about as much as I wanted to go getting invited by a naked girl on a dance floor to come dancing barefoot on broken glass.
Yeah, they overplayed their hand. I think it was too easy to see this. To see they had all the wrong people telling you to get vaccinated. They did it in all the wrong ways, too.
What they did is they got a group, humans that were all not educated in bacteriology. They had studied virology, had studied none of this stuff, and they were completely blank on it. Then they get these guys threatening them and telling them that there was a cruise ship coming in from this place in China, and then they started giving descriptions of it. Then they started yakking their little jaws and stuff, and before you knew it, it was turned into an epidemic, a vocabulary epidemic.
Yeah, it was driven by the test, the PCR test. If you didn't have the test, you wouldn't have had the pandemic. I don't think. There would have been there was a virus. I'm not saying there was, but you wouldn't have had the pandemic. The testing drove the pandemic. I don't think people realize that.
No, we're all under the influence of influence.
Yeah. But hey, James, I hate to cut you off. But we have to take a break here. We got to take one more break. I hate to cut you off, but please call in more often.
Oh, I will. Thank you for putting me on the air.
Thank you for calling.
Thanks, James.
Okay, bye-bye, Jeff.
We got to take a break. When we come back, Hunter Biden can't sell his art. What's up with that? Stay tuned. You're listening to Thinking Logically on 99.3 FM WBVP.
Tune in to Driving in the Fast Lane with Frank Sparks on 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP, Monday through Friday from 6:30 to 9 a.m. Frank will talk about what's happening in the news, locally, regionally, and nationally. There's also music to get you started for the day. The show is brought to you by Patriot Home Care. So set your radio dial to 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. We're streamed live on BeaverCountyRadio.com, so you can listen every morning on Beaver County Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management, and advertisers. Thank you for listening to WBVP and WMBA.
Welcome back to Thinking Logically here on 99.3 FM WBVP. We're going to run through a few headlines. Hunter Biden says he's broke. He says the sales of his memoir and art have slowed to a trickle, and his rental home was impacted by the Pacific Palisades fire. Wow. Hunter Biden isn't able to sell his paintings now that his dad, Joey Baby, is out of office. Isn't that a strange coincidence, conspiracy theorists? Democrats started singing "We Shall Overcome" in protest after Representative Al Green was censured. First of all, censoring is a joke to begin with. What penalty did he really get for what he done? He got street cred. Vanity Fair, they took us inside the Butler Hospital visit Trump had after he got shot, and apparently he was making fun of Joe Biden. Let me read the outskirt from Vanity Fair. Let me read this. The doctors wheeled Trump out of his room to get a CT scan for a possible concussion. The test came back clean and Trump wanted the records. Can you give me a copy of these? Trump asked the nurse. Because I want to make sure I can show reporters that my cognitive function is 100%. You can't say the same about Joe Biden. We can put it on a CD for you, the nurse says. Okay, we'll release that at a later date then. He's just so awesome. I'm sorry. You got shot in the face.
And you know what?
That's another thing
Joe Biden. That I thought, Joe, when I was watching the speech the other day, I thought to myself, for the Democrats to come out and say that he is out of his mind the way that Joe Biden is, the way they tried to combat that and say, well, Trump, he doesn't have the cognitive. It's insane. If you would see him watch him out there talk for 2 hours, it's night and day. Night and day.
What else? What do we got next here? I guess Trump is going to delay tariffs on most of the goods from Mexico for 1 month. And at the same time, up north, this is from A-News. In a stunning admission, Governor Tim Walz revealed he held talks with Canadian premiers Ford and Canoe, discussing ways to circumvent Trump's federal tariffs, actions that would violate federal tariff, conspiracy, and smuggling laws. While the president may not value the partnerships that contribute billions of dollars to our economy, Minnesota does. Well, state law does not trump federal law, Tim. Sorry. What else? South Carolina man Brad Sigmund, convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend's parents in 2001, to be executed by firing squad Friday. The first U.S. firing squad execution in 15 years. It's only 15 years. I thought it'd be 150. Yeah, right. Make sure that's not an edit audio or wrong. Yikes. Firing squads is where, certain conspiracy theories get taken seriously. Just saying. Stranded astronaut confirms Joe Biden shot down Musk's offer to bring pair home. It's absolutely factual. Oh, wow, really? How much time we have left? Let's just do this day in history. In this day, to finish out the episode, in 1924, the Egyptian government opened the mummy case of King Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut. He was the ruler of Egypt in the 14th century BC, and his burial chamber was discovered in 1922 by renowned British archaeologist Howard Carter. And I just have to say, because I saw this today on this day in history, do most people still believe the pyramids are just burial chambers for dead pharaohs? Even a child pharaoh that only lived to be a teenager? I mean, the building of the Great Pyramids makes the building of the Panama Canal look like an 8th grade science project. And they were built thousands of years before anyone even knew that we could put a canal in Panama or what a canal even was. And they did this with zero technology. I mean, think logically about this narrative that we've been told since grade school. They're coffins. The pyramids are coffins, giant coffins that a pharaoh starts building, I guess, whenever he's a kid. Actually, I guess pharaohs would start on their grandchildren's that weren't even born yet pyramids, if that makes any sense either. Does it make any sense to you, Ryan?
I always thought it was kind of suspicious.
And who built them? Do they have these genius engineers? No, manual labor by Jewish people Say whatever you want. The Jews are not exactly known for their manual labor skills.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to catch some flack for that, but that's all we got. The pyramids. I mean, I'm sick of pretending. Giant coffins for pharaohs. Come on.
I've always,
There's a reason every time it floods, the Nile floods. I think they go underneath that chamber in there. Water collects underneath there, saying it's power plant, it's something else. It's something, but it ain't a freaking coffin. All right, that's all we got for today, covering some conspiracies here the last couple seconds of the episode. We'll be back on Monday, 5 to 6 p.m. as always. Ryan, anything to say as we close out?
No, great show, Joe. I just couldn't wait to hear what you had to say about the big speech the other night. It was worth the wait. Great show.
All right, we'll be back on Monday, 5 to 6 p.m. See you then, fam. Have a great day.
The views and opinions expressed on WBVP and WMBA are those of the participants and host. They are not necessarily the viewpoint of WBVP and WMBA, its staff, management.